stay-at-home pervert, Adam Fart, is looking forward to receiving his grubby little DVD copy of ITV's The Mini Pops. But a bolt of lightning accidentally strikes the Amazon delivery package, and instead, Adam is faced with the arduous task of knocking one out to the Maxi Pops, where famous OAPs mime along to contemporary pop hits in increasingly revealing clothing. Beryl Reid falls off her pole and shatters her femur midway through singing Sabrina's Boys, 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 and things go south when Adam, dick in hand, has to find consolation via Clive Dunn, dressed in a leather wimple, singing Take This Job and Shove It by the Dead Kennedys.
Star Wars fan Gertrude Screwfix was sad. She'd recently spent £500 on the rarest Star Wars toy of all, Luke Skywalker in Dagobah learning about the Force. However, when it arrived, it was actually Luke Skywalker in a gay bar yearning to bum a horse.
TV addict Susan Dementer is settling in for the night to watch her favourite show, The Crystal Maze. But after sitting on her remote control slightly too hard and not realising it's a full moon and leap year or something, she is transported into an alternate version of the very game she is watching, where she has to navigate her way through 4 zones. Victorian Dartmoor Dogging Hospital, Horse Fisting Circus, Tetris Jurassic Park, and Vietnamese Sex Zumba Russian Roulette Inside Out Dalmatian Funeral.
Footballer Cheese Atkins was excited. He'd just signed a new highly lucrative contract and couldn't wait to get going. He was just sitting in his dressing room when he noticed a small tunnel had opened by the condom machine. He followed it, and inside he met a charming imp by the name of Hopgood Piss, who showed him the wonders of Rogopong, the underworld kingdom of happiness and treasures. "Lummy, dear Cheese, what wonders will we find in this magical world of magic, of Rogopong?" said Piss. They frolicked in the meadows, they laughed in the water pools, and they were just about to meet the king, when suddenly their happiness would end. Hopgood Piss, nervous and tired, shut himself to death over a prolonged period of 6 hours, and Cheese was left trapped in Rogopong, and it was eventually eaten by a spider the size of Luton.
Reverend Clovis Britta Waterfilter writes to the BBC asking to be a contestant in What's My Line? But due to a hideous admin error via a cursed gypsy and or something, he is forced to sit as an audience member surrounded by corpses watching Mrs. Clovis Britta Waterfilter being diddled by Bernie Winters in a new show called Wank My Wife.
Housewife Hurricane Deposit was nervous. Not only was she cating the 40th anniversary of DCI Harry Helmet being in the CID in her house, but she also had a dead body in the airing cupboard. In the middle of the shindig, Harry announced he would like a shower and asked where Hurricane kept the towels. Knowing he would find the body, she thought fast and shot her with an ice arrow, and then fed into the party guests. No one suspected a thing, and it was the perfect crime. 2 weeks later, at the reading of Harry Helmet's last will and testament, it turned out he'd left millions to Hurricane, but with the stipulation that she had to live up his properly dead arsehole.
All irregularities will be handled by the forces controlling each dimension. Transhumanic heavy elements may not be used where there is life. Medium atomic weights are available. Gold, lead, copper, jet, diamond, radium, silver, sapphire, and steel. Sapphire and steel are not available. Chow mein and AIDS have been assigned.
Historian Herman Tits, with 2 T's, was just about to give a giant presentation to the Global Historical Society entitled Nazis Are Shite, when he realised that he's accidentally printed the entire internet and couldn't find his research. So, panicking, he decided to pray to Satan for help, who arrived and gave him the notes in exchange for his soul. 2 hours later, as the lecture ended, with rapturous applause, Herman went out to do an encore when he was fatally killed in a hit and run by 22 bank robbers in a car.
Poor old Reverend Britta Waterfilter. After years of couples therapy due to Wank My Wife, he's given the opportunity to be a contestant on a new BBC quiz show, Impress the Gem. Howard Stableford hosts a new show where members of the public are lowered into a mirrored chamber in an attempt to impress the gem, which is a 10-foot rotating lapis lazuli voiced by Cyndi Lauper. If he impresses the gem, he is awarded with gifts and prizes, but if he fails to impress the gem, it emits a painful screeching sound that shatters the entire mirrored chamber, causing blindness, deafness, and paralysis. Mrs. Reverend Britta Waterfilter takes consolation in the fact that there's a free buffet in the green room, even though her husband has just been wheeled in a fucking wheelie bin. Insomniac Pavel Shed 7 comes up with the ultimate plan. He goes to bed in his lamb's wool socks and his shorn sheep onesie, because he's got insomnia, you see, and starts counting sheep. Well, within minutes, he is fast asleep. But the plan goes too well. Too sheep well? And he wakes up the next morning being fucked by a farmer in a field, then chased by a dog, branded, dipped in chemicals, castrated, and by mid-evening, he's laying on a plate next to some roast potatoes and a jar of mint sauce before being tipped on the floor and being gnawed by 3 Shih Tzus called Fifi, O'Malley, and Princess Rosie.
Arcade enthusiast Hermes Whoremonger was having the time of his life. He was about to beat the best score on the classic arcade game, This Is What the Devil Looks Like. He just needed to get 1,000,001. And finally, as the clock struck midnight, he got the score he was after. Then all his skin fell off, and his dog ran up his budgie's arsehole.
Keen Ambler and film/TV buff Gregory Cthulhu accidentally washes his favourite walking trousers with a compass in the back pocket. The compass is somehow absorbed into the very fibre of the trousers itself. And after putting them on, Gregory is doomed to spend eternity walking around in constant circles looking for his favourite film to watch. Is it Our Friends in the North, East is East, Due South, or The West Wing? Oh, what a cunt.
Gangster Tony Testicles slowly ascended the staircase of the apartment building. He was there for one reason, to kill Donnie the Dong Dingle for his part in the 4th of July massacre. He got to the door of his apartment and knocked twice. No answer. When he knocked again, still no answer. So eventually he kicked the door down, only to find that he'd suddenly fallen through time and was now a well-dressed talcum powder salesman in Victorian London, being chased by Jack the Ripper. Oh, God.
IT consultant Twat Shandy sinks all of his savings into a nanotech company via Kickstarter, little knowing that it's a company that actually puts nannies into technology. Now his alarm goes off every morning at 5 o'clock. His microwave only heats up Wiltshire Farm foods. His fucking Hoover never stops. His ringtone says, "Sorry, dear, what was that?" And every 20 seconds, the only thing that you can find in his fucking kitchen cupboard are ginger biscuits, jam, fucking frayed bentals boiling the tin pies, pilchards, and a multi-fucking saver pack of Tenor Lady.
Gardener Goggles Bukaki was nearing retirement. His eyesight was failing him, and his TV show, Gardening with Goggles, was on its very last episode. Now, he'd spent hours readying his final showpiece display to Prince Anne and her daughter Zaria Phillips at the Chelsea Flower Show. When they arrived with live cameras to look at it, they were horribly shocked to discover that rather than a picturesque flowerbed display to show the complicated history of geraniums in Britain, it was instead a giant swastika and a massive pair of spunky tits. Oh,
Old codger Oswald Emoticon finally caves in and buys himself a mobile phone. When he receives a text from his brother, Stacy, male, saying that his wife has passed away, Oswald immediately texts back LOL, thinking it means lots of love, and not understanding that it actually means laugh out loud. He is shunned by his family and decides to move abroad, but he doesn't know how to use his mobile phone and accidentally takes a picture of his own colostomy bag when renewing his own passport. So now he has to wear it on his face all the time when he travels abroad, and he had to change his name by Deedpo to Mr. Turd Face.
This one. Player gorilla expert Stonk Waterstones was in trouble. He'd visited a rare family of silverbacks in the jungle, but he'd forgotten his signalling guide. Rather than asking the alpha of the group if he'd like some bananas to eat, he'd accidentally asked him if he could have weird sex with his wife and put it on Ape YouTube.
Whilst on a wine-tasting stroke dogging holiday in Egypt, Philip Tippex finds an old lamp. He decides, hey, I'm on holiday. Why not? And rubs it 3 times, almost half-heartedly expecting a genie to appear. But instead, he summons the trapped spirit not of a genie, but of the nasal-toned American singer Gene Pitney, who grants him 3 fishes before flying up Philip's arsehole to live. Now, every time Philip farts, it's a pitch-perfect rendition of Something's Got a Hold of My Heart, and he's forced to soundproof his own toilet because his arsehole whispers the chorus to Time Without Pity every time he takes a shit.
Mountain climber Texas Foreskin had done it. He'd reached the highest peak of Everest and planted a flag with his family crest at the peak. As the winds blew through his frosted beard, he decided he would do something he'd promised his grandfather on his deathbed. He would read a passage from his diary that he promised to only read once he had conquered Everest.
Hang on, I know where this
He cleared his throat, turned to the relevant page, and read out loud. And this is what his grandfather said.
Yeah. Go on.
Dear Texas, I hope you are in good spirits and that the peak wasn't as treacherous as it was when I climbed it in 1953. If Texas could have cried, he would have. What a moment for posterity. Stood at the very peak of the highest mountain, bathed in frost, soaking into the moment.
Yeah.
Sadly, this is all ruined because he was run over by 23 bank robbers in a car. Musician Fender Savlon was stressed out. He had the best-selling album of all time. And he was working on the exciting follow-up. It was just hours before he had to submit it. He was missing that last killer song that would seal the deal. As he picked up his guitar for one last final time, and they asked the engineer to press record, he accidentally tripped, and while falling, the entire studio went up his arsehole. And the end result was #1 for 18 weeks.
Full-time racist and purveyor of the As Speak As I Found Brigade, Tony Falconry Centre, goes to Thailand to sample ladyboys and generally abuse the entire culture. Pissed at 8 a.m, Tony decides to get a tattoo, choosing a suitable series of symbols in the standard haphazard drunken way, and within minutes he's inked with the usual cliché cod western philosophy guff, and he disappears onto the streets to find a full English breakfast. Little does he know that the tattooist was a shaman and is also well versed in judo, cluedo, and sudokus. When Tony returns home to the UK, the curse is activated, and he's immediately arrested for wanking koi carp with a Ken Ham glove puppet.
Busy waiter Francois Sciadetrix had been rushed off his feet all day. He had just 15 minutes left of his shift. Before he could finally call it a day and go home, his last table were being very argumentative about paying their bill, claiming that they hadn't eaten anything they were being charged for. Francois went through the bill, item by item, but they still wouldn't have it. And it was at that moment that Francois saw something that would chill his very blood to ice. One of the people arguing the bill was his dad, and his dad had been dead for 4 million years.
There now follows an upheld Ofcom apology from the BBC. The BBC wish to apologise for any anguish or mental or emotional stress caused by the host of Celebrity Mastermind, John Humphreys. The BBC wish to apologise to celebrity contestant Kate Beckinsale, in particular, who was not expecting Mr. Humphreys to shout out, "Why not throw toasted bagels over my erect cock?" when he should have said, "I've started so I'll finish," which he did in so many words. The complaint has been upheld, as was John.
Cursed sailor Jolly Bovril lived a horrid life. When he was young, he'd met the devil while sailing and had accidentally called him a prick. As revenge, the devil put a series of coin-operated amusement balls up his arsehole, and Jolly was cursed with immortality. When children used to see Jolly, they would sing this plaintive song. Milk, milk, lemonade, Jolly's in the boat parade. But now they sing, milk, milk, lemonade, up his arse is an arcade.
Sun worshipper Agnes Dracula III is fed up. It's the worst holiday ever. Every morning it's the same thing. The German tourists lay their towels down on the sun lounges and nobody can get to any of the best places. Later that night, after a Horlicks cocktail, she hatches a plan. She gets up very early in the morning, technically still the night, and lays one single square of toilet paper on all the sun lounges. The next day, Agnes is delighted to see all the German tourists battling each other to death to be the first person to take a shit.
Music hall star Jugs Calhoun was just about to be given an award. He'd been in showbiz for 70 years, and he was being celebrated by his peers and fans alike. As his name was announced, he stepped onto the stage, but at the last moment, he fell through a portal in time and ended up landing up Bernie Winter's arsehole and writing all jokes like the rap from Ratatouille, but the main difference being that he was up his arsehole.
Priti Patel rises from her lead-lined coffin, yawns her forked tongue, tasting the air. She stretches, kicking a bag of wonky cats down the stairs for fun. She withdraws her many alien tentacles and dislocates her jaw, eating a shaved orphan's head for breakfast. She spits the bones into the sink and assimilates back into the human form that we all come to know and loathe. Outside, the nation waits, breath bated, a harmony of expectation. Oblivious, Priti smears a pentagram of hot feces over the door and is ready to take on the day. The nation lean forwards collectively in their homes. "Now!" shouts one lone voice. Priti Patel looks around and then up. "What is happening?" she screams. A button is pressed and she is crushed to death by a 200-foot solid steel fucking letter G. The nation cheers. A bank holiday is announced. A national party. The party is banging.
The mystery of what has happened to the HMS Terror and HMS Erebus may never be truly solved. But Kelvin Watersports was sure that he finally had the solution and could at last bring closure to the mystery. As he called the press conference and spoke to the world, he produced the missing evidence. a long lost thought diary, discovered in one of many graves on Beachy Island. It would seem that the ships were indeed ice-locked, and the crew were forced to seek help by walking a treacherous 200-mile journey to safety. But on that journey, they encountered something truly monstrous.
Go on.
Something truly evil.
Yeah, go on.
24 bank robbers in a car.
The suicide note left by Thomas Glockenspiel, president of the Sound of Music Appreciation Society and official fan club, is a sad yet revealing read. For the first time, here it is in its entirety. Bird shit on roses and bags of drowned kittens, skid marks on carpets, railings with one mitten, a still warm corn plaster in my chicken wings. These are a few of my least favourite things. Moth-eaten cardies and cold apple strudel, bailiffs and crank calls and urine on noodles, people at parties with guitars who must sing. These are a few of my least favourite things. When the dog dies, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember all these shitty things, and then I just shoot myself in the head with my dad's uncle's antique Luger.
Carpet fitter Gobstopper Fontaine was just about to finish fitting the carpet in the old haunted manor house before clocking off for the night. As he pushed the last bit of carpet into the corner of the old music room, he collected his things, and he stood to remove those sort of knee pads that they wear. And then he saw something that would freeze his blood forever. Count Dracula with a Hoover?
Housewife and self-confessed clean freak Sharon Vindaloo likes things clean and tidy. One afternoon, whilst bleaching her bread bin, she trips over a loose peppercorn and flies headlong into the washing machine. The door slams shut and begins its delicate and/or cold wool cycle. Sharon is trapped inside, paralyzed with fear. Eventually, she passes out. But soon, she regains consciousness, expecting to find herself in a hospital. But no, she instead finds herself in the middle of the ocean, marooned on a desert island made entirely out of lost spare socks.
Breakdancer Bubblegum Baxter was nervous. He was in the World Breakdancing Final, and he just sprained his ankle while practicing his final move, the downward pig break. He couldn't pull out now, so in an act of total desperation, he prayed to the devil in order to save the day, and quick as a flash, the devil appeared and fixed his ankle in exchange for his soul. So Bubblegum finally took the stage and was clearly the best breakdancer on the stage. And as he prepared to pull off the downward pig break, something started to happen that terrified him. The entire panel of judges all went blind at the same time and missed it. He was later disqualified for using witchcraft and died up his own arsehole.
Army Major Sir Reginald Quickfit is a harsh and cruel man, loathed and feared in equal measure by the soldiers under his command. Given to cruel regimes and even crueler punishments, his only Achilles heel, as it were, is his feet, secretly suffering from fallen arches, bunions, and trapped nerves. This accounts for why he always sits down for up to 8 hours a day, and even insists on being carried around on his chair like some lord by the cadets and the trainees. One evening he returns triumphant on his chair after burning a tribal village to the ground. He goes to the mess hall for his favourite supper of deviled kidneys, little knowing that the cook and his entire battalion have hatched a plan. Sir Reginald eats his dinner but is drugged and awakes the next morning to find that a landmine has been inserted into his colon, forcing him to spend the rest of his day stood on his feet because sitting down would press the pressure pin sticking right out of his arse.
Pilchard Potpourri was a high-class sex gigolo, and tonight was a job like no other. When he arrived at the house of his mysterious and wealthy client, he knocked at the door and was met by a posh butler, who showed him to the drawing room and made him a large brandy because he said he'd probably need it. As he was admiring the many fine paintings, his client announced his arrival, and Pilchard Potpourri turned to see something that would freeze his blood forever. There, in the doorway, was 25 bank robbers in a car.
Childless yam farmers, Conchita and Eduardo Yakety Sachs, see strange lights in the sky one evening. The next day, they find an abandoned baby in their yam field. It's all very Superman, isn't it? They decide to bring the child up as their own. And all is well for many months until the child loses his milk teeth. And then his milk toes. Then his milk fingers. And then his milk eyes.
Private Detective Danny Portobello was sat in his office, supping on a well-worn whiskey and smoking his 10th cigarette of the morning, when in walked a dame. She had legs up to her body and eyes that could see adequately. Her name was just as sweet as her face, Daffodil Prunes. A dame in distress, you might say. Her husband, the oil tank tycoon Harry Prunes, was missing, and his wife was beside herself with worry. Danny made her a drink, offered her a cigarette, and then told her he'd accept the case on one condition. He'd be given 3,000 big ones up front and be inserted into the asshole of Fred Dibner.
Late one night at NASA head control, a lone scientist scrolls through the latest details transmitted by the newly launched Mars Perseverance rover. Suddenly, he notices something on the live feed. In the distance. Could it be? Just there, far into the distance, it almost looks like a lone figure. Holding something. Surely not. He picks up the phone, rings his superiors. They come down. They look. They check. They run tests. They confirm it. It looks like some lone figure. Orders are passed around. Government officials meet. And within days, the entire world's media is on full alert. We are told for the first time that we are not alone. The coordinates are fed into the Perseverance rover, and slowly, very slowly, it creeps forwards, ever forwards, towards this distant figure on the Martian horizon. The world holds its breath, and finally, all is revealed to mankind. A man in denim shorts and a poncho holding a sign with an arrow pointing to Earth with the words golf sale.
Actor Commodore Amiga was excited. He just heard from his agent that he'd got something at the NFT. That they'd send a car for him any minute. He brushed his hair, grabbed his things, and ran out to the car, only to find that his agent had sold him as a non-fungible token, and he'd have to live in a lockup forever with a painting of Pat Coombs. Oh!
Middle England Tory, real alien enthusiast, and local neighbourhood watch ass basket Tony Chicken Dippers III reluctantly hires a group of builders to work on an extension to his rather large property. As the days go by, Tony rants and raves to his wife and daughter that they're all work-shy layabouts, probably Polish. He's convinced that they're all using his private bathroom, stealing the drinks from his cabinet and eyeing up his 19-year-old daughter. His family dismiss his ramblings and leave him alone to continue bothering parish meetings and boring the locals with cricket statistics. One day, Tony is so convinced that the builders have actually been stealing his brandy that he decides to take matters into his own hands. So, lost my place then. When I went, his own hands. Oh, yeah. His own hands. He decides to order some anti-theft smart water online. A sort of invisible spray that glows neon under UV lighting.
Yeah.
Covering his drinks cabinet, his paintings, all his trophies, and all the other so-called valuables around the house. He can't wait to meet those builders and catch them neon-handed. A couple of months pass, the extension is built. Tony pays the builders and notices that they've all got UV spray paint glowing on their hands. The problem is that none of his possessions appear to have been touched. Not a single UV print on his paintings, his trophies, or indeed his drinks cabinet. Reluctantly and angrily, he pays them and they leave. That very night, there is a power cut. Tony, stumbling through the house, cannot find a candle, so uses his UV light to light his way. And what does he see? But his wife, with a pair of UV tip prints on her tits. His daughter, with a UV paint around her mouth. And more distressingly, his mother, with UV footprints on her tits.
Builder Justice Dickens was having a rough day. He just accidentally conjured an evil genie from a lamp he found in the foundations of a building site. And he made his 3 wishes. Okay. 1, £1 billion. 2, a Ferrari with bright red paint. And 3, his own private airplane and airport. All good wishes, you might say. Trouble is, they were all up his arsehole.
Sports mad fanatic and personal trainer Samson Dairily Dunkables goes to his doctor with another case of suspected tennis elbow, but is alarmed to discover that the tennis elbow has spread. In fact, the doctor diagnoses him with rugby nipples, bar billiards ankle, cricket chin, lacrosse balls, and a particularly virulent case of dressage arsehole.
Futuristic cyborg cop Kevin Bukaki was in a spot of bother. Yeah, he'd faced criminals before, and he'd always won the day. But today was totally different. Today he was facing off against OCP's newest crime-fighting machine.
Shit.
26 bank robbers in a car.
Fucking ass. Sex addict Raymond Minotaur accidentally fills his blow-up doll with helium and floats off into the sky, where he's spotted performing cunnilingus in a cumulus nimbus before reaching his cumulus stratus in a stratocumulus in the shape of Davros in a minibus, being arrested by the before being arrested by the RAF for indecent exposurus. The judge gives him 2 years and hard calculus for being a cuntus.
Tailor Kevin Dangerwank was nervous. He'd been up all night making a bespoke suit for a very particular client by the name of I Am the Devil, and he was due to arrive to pick it up in 2 minutes. Luckily, Kevin had just got the last stitch in when the client arrived. The client looked over the suit and nodded, but with a glint in his eye that suggested that the entire shop might soon be going up the tailor's arsehole. And it did!
See a penny? Pick it up. All day long, you'll have good luck. Well, tell that to window cleaner Tommy Mastodon, who, whilst bending down to retrieve a coin on the 27th floor on a window ledge of an illegal Dutch wool company factory, gets stung on his cock by a bee and falls to his death outside New Scotland Yard. The last thing his eyes ever see is his swollen red pulsing arsehole gently revolving in circles on the sign.
Bus driver Bud Dutch Cox Volume 3 was nervous. His bus had been rigged with a highly explosive device that would go off if he ever stopped having an erection. So while Bud kept the bus at a reasonable speed, his passengers had to download as much porn as possible to maintain Bud's hot rod. Sadly, after 3 hours, they went through a tunnel and lost the signal, causing Bud's poor cock to collapse, killing them all. Oh my God!
French film lover and tattoo enthusiast Jean-Paul Autoglass Replace goes to a tattoo shop to get a tattoo of Audrey Tattoo. But the combination of his stutter and the tattooist having tinnitus results in Jean-Paul not getting a tattoo of Audrey Tattoo, but instead getting a tattoo of Mr. Magoo having a poo in a shoe at the Edinburgh Tattoo next to the new schmoo sniffing glue at 2:30 during the Battle of Waterloo.
Assistant fishmonger Clarence Ejaculate was bringing in his latest delivery from the back door when he noticed one of the poor fish was still alive. "Help me," the fish said in perfect English. "Help me, and I will tell my father, the king of the sea, that you saved me, and he will reward you." Clarence asked how he could help him, and the fish explained that he would need to have sex with his mouth. So Clarence, being the caring and thoughtful man he is, did just that. Sadly, after 43 long minutes, the fish died, and Clarence gave him an honourable Viking funeral as tribute.
Oh.
Sadly, his boss didn't believe any of this story, and he was fired immediately.
Cornish woman and food blogger Janet Apocalypse argues daily about the etiquette and the tradition of a traditional cream tea. She screams this constantly: "It's cream on top of jam! It's cream on top of jam, or it's not a cream tea." I don't know why she's northern. She lives in Cornwall. "It's cream on top of jam! It's cream on top of jam!" One day, whilst sorting out some old classic records and LPs, it's vital that you know that bit, she receives a phone call from yet another person asking her the same thing. And again, she says, "It's cream on top of jam! It's cream on top of jam!" She gets so upset, she has a brain aneurysm and collapses onto the record player. Her neighbour next door, the last thing she hears is, "It's cream on top of jam! It's cream on top of jam!" But when she goes into her neighbour's house to see Janet, she very much notices that it's Jan on top of cream.